All right, thank you all for coming tonight. Let's call this meeting to order at 6:02. First thing is roll call.
Kristen Runge.
Was that me? That was me. So, present.
Okay.
We good?
Trisha Brown,
Here.
Al Dassow, David Kennedy. Here. Todd McCulloch.
Here.
Jeff Tews.
Here.
Abigail Zellner.
Here. All right, next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes. Does anyone have any corrections or changes? I'll move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries. Next up is public comment. Do we have any public comments?
No, none submitted.
All right.
I don't know if there's anyone in the audience. Okay.
All right. Then next item on the agenda is a presentation from Steve Hanrahan regarding Habitat for Humanity's home rehabilitation program.
Excellent. We're very happy to have Steve here from Habitat for Humanity. You may recall at one of our previous meetings, we began a discussion about what to do with the allocation of those extra TIF dollars. And right now, as you know, we've got our affordable housing fund program that's nearing completion in terms of ready for accepting applications. But Steve is here to show or to explain about how their new program may dovetail into what we're doing. And Steve, I don't know if you've got any background that you're going to provide in terms of your baseline project, but the main focus, I think, is going to be your rehab. But anyway, I've got some slides, and so just let me know when you're ready for those.
Anytime you are. Is this for our benefit or people online?
Yeah, people online.
Or do you push this button?
Yeah.
It turned green. That must be a good thing.
Perfect.
Thank you very much for inviting me here tonight. It's always a pleasure to talk to folks that are interested in housing, and part of that, of course, is repair and rehabilitation. So it's really a pleasure to be here. But before I get started, I just feel I need to disclose a couple things. And one of them is for many years of my life, I was probably an enemy of Wanakee because I was the Sunbury High School hockey coach. And we had some good rivalries. And I thought that all ended when I retired from that and got into working with Habitat. But then you stole Tim from us in Sunbury. And so it never ends, I guess. But I've been in my current position with Habitat for about 5 years. And prior to that, I ran their our two restores, I should say. So at the time that I met Tim, I knew quite a bit about the operation of restores, where we fit in the country, the county, the city, all of that. But I was a rookie when it came to housing. Sure, I learned a lot about our mission and things like picking it up at our managers' meetings and whatever. But I needed to learn quickly. And Tim was very patient with me. I think he realized right off the bat that I was a rookie and I didn't know much. And so I want to thank him for helping me get to where I am today from a knowledge standpoint, especially the inner workings of how you all operate. And that's really helped me. And one of the projects that he helped us with to get started was the concept plan for what's now the largest habitat development in the state of Wisconsin. In Sun Prairie, we're building a mixed income neighborhood with 48 habitat homes and 60 market rate homes. And it was a really great idea. We did not predict that the economy would take a little tumble in the real estate area. So we have a lot of lots for sale if people are interested in building in Sun Prairie, but probably not here, but anyway, Tim, thank you very much. I appreciate all your patience and help with that. And I'm not suggesting I'm an expert, but I am 5 years into it. So I know a lot more than I did back when we first started. Why don't we move to the next slide? I want to give you a little background on Habitat, not a lot, because I know you want to hear about the repair program and what have you, but we clearly have a vision and a mission, as do most organizations. And clearly our vision is where everyone has a decent place to live. I'm not going to define decent. I think we all have a picture in our mind of what that might be. But if you look around the globe, that changes depending on the geographic location you're in. And it really changes depending on the locality you're in, even here. I mean, what used to be affordable by definition, even in an area like Sun Prairie, were homes that appraised at about $180,000 or less. And our homes in Sun Prairie in our new neighborhood are appraising at about 285 to 290. And we're getting right at that point where maybe defining those as affordable is getting very difficult, but I'll explain that to you if you're interested later. Obviously, our optic is very similar to what you see in the picture that takes a community to build our homes. We are by far the slowest builders in the world because we use a lot of volunteers, and it's important to us. They actually help fund our work. And so we have to be patient, and we certainly appreciate all the help that the communities can give us. But if you're thinking of Habitat with a hard hat, a hammer and a nail, and people erecting walls, that's us. That's what we do. Most people who come out to help us, that's what they want to do. Unfortunately, putting the framing up on a house only happens once. It doesn't happen all the time. So there's other jobs that volunteers do for us that may not be as fun as that, but it's certainly it's needed, and the homeowners certainly appreciate it. Why don't we move on to the next one? So around the area, and we are an affiliate of Habitat for Humanity International. We refer to those as HFHI, and we refer to ourselves as affiliates. And there's about 1,200 affiliates in the United States that are all habitats. Our habitat is exclusive to Dane County. We have governing rules that don't allow us to operate outside of the county. And all the funds we raise for Habitat are spent right here in Dane County. We oftentimes, have trouble spreading ourselves around the whole county, because in order to take advantage of the economies of scale, we need to build 4 or 5 houses at a time in one area, and land is extremely hard to come by, as most of you are probably well aware. So I constantly remind people who say, well, you got 12 lots right here in whatever community you want to pick. And we go, yeah, but we can't just build here because we're Habitat for Humanity of Dane County. So we're currently building in Oregon, Stoughton, Sun Prairie, and Madison this year. And we bank land so that we have a 3-year window at least on where we're going to build. And we try to get ourselves into all the communities we can around the Dane County area. In order to serve more families, because we can't build our way out of this housing crisis that we have. We are a very small part of the whole picture, but what we do, we feel is extremely important. Home ownership is a vehicle for families to really become, it's a solution that is generational. We know from the facts that kids that grow up in a home owned by their parents are more likely to buy their own home when they grow up. And the opposite of that is almost exactly the same truth. If you rent and your parents rent, chances are that's going to be the avenue that you want to go. And that's not always multi-generational, obviously. But to serve more families, we're growing our financial education training. We actually have a number of success stories where we've had families that are not eligible for our program because of some financial situation they may have. It's usually too much debt, maybe a couple of judgments against them or whatever. They come to our courses, they learn about it, and then they reapply. And we've had a number that have then become eligible. That's not the intent of the whole program. That's just a positive outcome of it as well. So we are at the present time expanding that program. And we're also expanding our home repair. We've always done it, but we haven't put the effort into it that that we're putting into it right now. We're real busy trying to build homes, which we're still doing, but now our emphasis is on how many families, how many people can we serve with our expertise. That happens to be home repair and financial training in addition to our home building. We attempt to build about 15 homes a year. And we've built, what's the number now? 338 homes in Dane County. We've been at it for about 33 years. So we're not, we're not a fly-by-night organization by any stretch, and plan to be here for quite some time. Next slide, please. I love having somebody operating the slides. This is great. The income area that, or space that we deal in is exclusively for home ownership between 30 and 60% of the area median income. And I'm just going to give you some ballpark figures because we all studied math, I hope. I love math. I have a lot of math credits to my name, but a family of four, AMI for Dane County is approximately $100,000. It's now, I think, rose to about 106. And that's a number that HUD assigns to us each year. They assign it all over the country. So if we deal with 30 to 60%, I gave the 100,000 because we can do the math. We deal with household incomes for families between $30,000 and $60,000 approximately. That's for home ownership. For our repair, we are allowed to go a little lower than that and a little bit higher than that, but it's still between about 15,000 and 80% of the area median income. So we do define it. These are real examples of what we've done, but they're not nearly all that we do in the repair area. I do want to talk about rehabs a little bit because we do oftentimes get involved in a rehab situation, but we are not house flippers. It's not cost effective for us to buy a home and then put the money that we need to put into it to sell it to one of our families, which we do, by the way, for those of you that don't understand our model. Our homeowners purchase their homes from us. We just happen to be the developer, the builder, and the bank. So everybody thinks that we give homes away. That's never happened. We couldn't exist if that was our model. But every now and then, maybe someone in their will or whatever might give us a house. We then can put the investment into it, fix it up, and then find a family that we can put in that house. So rehabs are part of our program, but again, we aren't just house flippers. We don't go out and buy anything. We do not sell in a normal course of our operation homes to the general market. I mean, we select families, we vet the families, they meet our requirements, and we assign them to the homes that we build. In fact, we actually don't even dig the holes in the ground to put the foundation in until we know what the family is that's going in there. So there's a long process. Our families are normally in the program for 18 to 24 months before their home is done. Part of that is because I mentioned we're not the fastest builders in the world, but the other is they have to put in about 450 hours of what we call sweat equity in order to get their homes. So they contribute in that way. They make a down payment. It's not a large down payment that you might need in a conventional mortgage situation, but it is a down payment. They oftentimes have to save money for that. And then, of course, they have to pay their mortgage. In order to pay a mortgage these days, you have to have a job. So our families are almost exclusively working 5 days a week. Usually if it's a two adult family, they're both working. So they can only help if they take time off or on Saturdays. So our work week for our construction crews is Tuesday through Saturday. And we do an awful lot of building, and some of the things you see on the news and just the optic of what we do is Saturday building where the families are out pounding nails on their house or maybe the neighbor who's going to live next to them or whatever. They can also work in the restore and get credit for some of those hours that they put in. The whole point of this is to let you know and understand that they have skin in the game. It's not a gift. They earn an awful lot of what they do. Before we get into the details, just quickly, the magic of our program is that we charge no interest on their mortgage. If you think about today, a $450,000 mortgage, the amount you'd pay, well, if we were having this conversation a year ago, I would have been saying 3 or 4% interest. Now we're talking 7 to 8%. The amount of interest you pay on that over 30 years is enormous. That's how we keep the homes affordable for our families. In addition to that, we cap their payments for housing at 28% of their income. So there's no interest, but it has to cover principal, it has to cover the taxes that they pay. And in some cases, if we're building townhomes or twin homes, we have an HOA, they may have dues. All of that combined at the most is 28% of their income. That allows them to have the rest of their income to spend on things like education, health, groceries, the things that they are skimping on right now because they may be paying as much as or more than 50% of their income for their housing in the rental world. And just one note that people always wonder, how can home ownership be affordable when it's so expensive to get involved? I've given you a little bit of how they get into it, but think of it this way, and you've all, I'm sure, understand this, but sometimes reminders help. The principal on their loan to us never goes up. If they were in the rental world, their rent would be going up every single year. And what's really neat about it is as they age and their cost stays level, it all of a sudden ends when they paid off their house. And that's at retirement age or somewhere in that area. Whereas if you're renting, it never stops. So affordability over the long term is what we're after. And then the multi-generational aspect of it is important to us as well. So I'd be happy to answer questions about specifics if you'd like them in the end, but I'm here to tell you about our repair program. The reason this is important is that all the principles that we apply to our home ownership also apply to our repair program. We just expand the income eligibility a little bit, but everyone that's in our program has to have a need. For instance, in the repair program, we're not going to go and put a deck on someone's house because they want to have a deck. We will go and help repair their roof so that the home can remain livable and what have you. We don't remodel. We help bring that home up to standards so that it can be, again, lived in. They have to be willing to contribute. On the repair side, it's a little more difficult than coming out on a Saturday and, carrying hammers and nails, but it might be something as simple as making treats for the volunteers that come out and help repair their home. It may be helping with the actual work, but it may also be maybe they say, you know what, I can't be here at all when you're working on this, but where could I go to help someone else? And, we'll take care of that. And then the third component we touched on with selling our homes, our repair program has the same requirement that you have to have some monetary skin in the game. So there's not a free lunch, so to speak, for repair as well. But we do have some good programs and some opportunities I think are coming up. And I'm hoping as a result of this, we can continue discussions about how we might be able to work together here in Waunakee. I only have 100 slides, so don't worry, we'll get through them all. No, I have very few. So these are some of the projects that we've worked on. And if you look at that list, and if I forgot to ask at the beginning, how many of you have ever been on one of our build sites and helped out? Well, thank you very much. We certainly appreciate it, but you also probably saw the behind the curtain view. A lot of these things that are on here, we're not experts at. So we do need to subcontract some of the work out, but we are the lead on the projects and we have volunteers that do the work that we can do on the repair project. So our cost, if you're getting into a bidding situation, is going to be much less than what a homeowner would pay on the in the market. But siding, porches, windows, and porches are to repair porches. They're not to build new ones that might be twice the size and all of that kind of stuff. Doors, flooring, all of this stuff are fair game. And I'm sure there's other things that we would be more than happy to work on that we just don't list every single possible project that we would be involved in. The process is very similar to what you would do if you wanted to repair your home. But we do the financial part first. We vet the homeowner to make sure that they meet our requirements. And I think if you go to the next slide, I think there's some details on there. Here's basically the requirements. As I mentioned before, for home ownership, we use a percentage. For repair, we start at 15,000 and go up to 80% of the AMI in Dane County. By the way, I did explain that for a family of 4, what the AMI is. It goes down for a family of 2, and unbelievably, it goes up for a family of 6 or 8, which to me is a little bit skewed. I think if I had 6 kids, it would cost me more than if I had 4, and I don't know that my income would just automatically go up. But anyway, that's the government. We do not repair homes that are not owned and lived in by the homeowner. We don't deal with landlords because we're not in that business. So our homeowners are they occupy the homes. They have to be current on all of the requirements that all of us live by as well. And if they qualify, we use the same philosophy with repairs as we do for home ownership. 0% interest on the loan. Let's move on, maybe. Here we go. So some of the added benefits of the repair program, and this, try not to preach too much about this, and Tim was part of the regional task force here in Dane County on housing, and he knows all the ins and outs of it, but 80% of the homes we need to try to get ourselves out of this crisis already exist. They're just falling apart over time. And so there's a great need and a fiscally sound way of helping eliminate the housing crisis if we can repair more and more homes for those that need it the most. And those are the ones that can't afford to do it. And those homes are very vulnerable, as you can imagine, in some of the neighborhoods where we are. Our volunteers and sponsors are behind us in this effort. So it's well received by the community. We've done some less specific repair work, but maintenance kind of projects we call Rock the Block, where you go in and do smaller projects all on the same day, as an example, in a neighborhood. So that's certainly a possibility we could get into. And there's some, as you are more than aware, when there's code violations, it becomes more of a crisis for that homeowner where they have to get something fixed, rather quickly. And we'd be more than happy to get involved in those kinds of things. They are safety issues as far as we're concerned, because that's mostly, I would imagine, where the code violations come in. So that's primarily some of the added benefits. And I don't believe I have any more slides except the next one. Yeah. I love obviously talking about this. So anytime you have questions, or you can go through Tim or call me directly. I have some cards and just some handouts here I'll leave with Tim in case you want to talk about it. But I'm more than happy to answer any questions you might have or things that I didn't cover.
This is really great. Thank you so much for coming to talk to us. Question I have off the bat before everyone else jumps in. We've got the Waunakee Housing Betterment Fund, which we're working on launching, and we are hoping to have a pretty robust response from the community. Anyone who has costed or gotten estimates for repairs is probably, as we have been at our family, shocked at what it costs. So what would be maybe the cost comparison versus a straight commercial firm that can come in, a straight construction firm? Is it typically half? Is it 30%? Is it 80%? Is it all over the place?
It's really, I'm glad you used the words all over the place, because it really is. And the problem is that, as you know, part of the game in the whole construction world, especially in repair, is whether or not the contractor really wants the work. If they don't want it, the price goes way up. If they do want it, they're a little more competitive. I'm not knocking that. I understand that as a strategy. But they also don't bring any funding to the game, whereas we do and we can. And so if it's a $15,000 project, whether it would be us or a private contractor, there's funding that we've been awarded that we can apply right to the homeowner to bring that cost down. In Madison, we have been awarded $60,000 over 2 years, $5,000 a project for 6 projects each year for a couple of years. And the county has pre-approved the same amount for next year, but it's not official yet because it has to go through the CDBG commission and then the county board. But those that we can bring to the table as well. We just take that right off the top. And we do have some projects where the homeowners, even though they are low income, they have enough resources to pay for it.
Okay.
It's not all a loan, but usually there's a component of a loan through us.
Okay.
Is that
Yeah.
is that okay as an answer? And I know I
great.
dodged it a little bit because
That's all
we
right.
we don't advertise that we're 40% below normal contracting rates, because if we do a roofing job, as an example, years ago, our volunteers used to climb on the roofs and pound in the roofing material, but they're getting older and they don't do that anymore. So we contract that out, and depending on how busy they are, we may get some good rates or we may not. So I'm really not dodging it. I'm trying to give you the honest answer, but
Trisha just said she's
Yeah,
moved to Habitat
I-
House.
sounds
So,
very-
yeah.
Learn how to shingle.
thank you. I wouldn't be able to do that. I'm afraid of heights.
All right. Other questions or comments?
Steve, would the repair program, this doesn't sound like it's in your box now, this would be out of the box kind of thinking, but if somebody was arranging to buy a house that was in ill repair, would there be, and they were in that income level, and would that be something that you'd be interested in helping them with rehab projects that would need it, such as a roof or other things? You know, obviously with the village, they got to meet some requirements in order to sell it, but I'm just
Right.
wondering whether there would be some way to allow somebody to move into a home with your rehab program that's associated.
Yeah, the short answer is yes, we'd certainly be interested. The more complicated part of that is it might be difficult for them to get a conventional mortgage to buy that house if it was both in ill repair and required the, down payment and the 8% interest or whatever. But yes, we'd be more than interested. What we can't do is buy a property for, 200,000 and put another 150 into it and then try to apply our model and call it affordable. But yeah, we're open to suggestions. These requirements that I mentioned earlier about living and occupying the home and owning it outright, they're rules, but maybe we use the word guidelines from Habitat International. If there's a way we could do it, we certainly would be interested. If we've never done it, as far as I know, in that exact scenario. And there might be more difficulties. They may have to buy it first and then we could come in and take care of it. But we'd certainly be interested in helping, in any way we can.
I was just thinking about our program of helping them buy the house. And if it had this kind of guarantee that you'd be willing to help the process, that there may be a partnership that could happen.
That I'm pretty sure we could easily do if we were working together and you were helping them get into the house. We just may have to say they need to sign the papers first with whatever assistance you're giving them, and then we could step in.
Yeah, it's a good idea. It's a good idea. Trisha.
Yeah.
One actually is probably more for Tim. and I can't remember how this is structured. Could something like this, because this is a 0% loan, be considered match for our program?
Good question. Possibly. I don't know if we've talked about that yet. I can't let you know. I spoke to individuals from Project Home who have offered a similar thing. Like under our program, it's the property owner that pays 50%. We haven't really talked about, could there be another entity on behalf of that property owner that fills in their 50%? So it's possible. I suppose by strict adherence to what's adopted right now, probably not, but I think there's certainly room to move on that. I think if it's you all see it as enough of a priority to get folks in those income ranges in their homes repaired, I would think there's a way we could get there.
Yeah, it's especially if it's something where they're going to pay it back, just maybe not with interest, but they don't have the cash on hand to get the projects moving. It could be a cool option. It's a great program. I really appreciate your presentation. The other question I had for you was, how are people finding you? How are people finding out about this program? Just because it's new to us, so how can we help you promote it?
I appreciate the question. I'm not trying to be glib, but if I knew the answer to that directly, I probably wouldn't be here. We'd be too busy. It's an arduous process because the folks that we are serving aren't necessarily getting the message from the same avenues that all of us in this room would get that message. So we're aware of it and we do what we can. A lot of it is word of mouth, but we're all over social media. We do some radio and TV advertising and talk about it, but our issue is we're not real sure in a 15-second TV commercial whether the audience understands exactly what we're talking about. So it's a work in progress. It's not that it's new to us. We've been doing this for many years. It's just now we would like to expand it and add to what we've been doing. We've done an awful lot of handicapped access and projects like that over the years. And we usually do 1 or 2 rehabs a year. But there are rehabs that we didn't have to invest in a lot of the real estate on the properties. But as a side note, we've partnered a number of times with Project Home. We work together with them. And if there's any way that we could help mitigate some of the maybe questions or whatever in that regard, we'd certainly like to talk about it. Habitat for a long time has been known to be a pretty rigid organization where these are the rules, this is how we do it and whatever. But at our last international affiliate conference, the key word was innovation. They're expecting us to think outside the box, which to some of our affiliates means stretch the rules, and others it's like, just as an example, we are about home ownership. And there's actually some habitats out there that are building and involved in projects that'll be rentals. That's now like 5 years ago, you couldn't even say the word rental in the habitat world. But so things are changing, and I don't want to say no to anything. That partnering and collaborating is how we're going to get better and serve more people. And if we can help you do the same thing in this community, it's in Dane County, that's us. We'd love to be a part of it.
So I have a comment and a question. So about 8 years ago, we did a remodel of our whole first floor, and we had Habitat Restore come in and do the demo for us. And the contractor said, "Oh, it's going to take them a day or two," and they said, "No, it'll take us, the morning or something." And sure enough, they had about 9 guys, all in their probably 70s or so. And they had that thing done in like 2.5 hours, and it was really done well. And I was so impressed with the quality of the volunteers. And I knew one of the volunteers I used to work with, so that was kind of cool. But so I think the volunteers that you have, some of them are very expert carpenters and very good at their job. So my question was, on some of these rehabs that you have, depending on the size of it, it may be faster than others, and you may not need volunteers. Is that correct? Where you just use the volunteers that you kind of have in house, or the ones that you always work with?
All great questions, but first, thank you for donating to the Restore. I'm assuming part of your remodel was the kitchen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Cabinetry, yeah, cabinetry
Yeah.
remains one of our largest revenue producers in the Restore. And our Restores, when I started as the director, we were doing about 1.2 million in revenue annually with the 2 stores. And this year we're forecasting 2.5 million. And about 25 to 30% of that falls right to the bottom line after all expenses. I mean, the VP of the Restores reports to me, and so I don't even remember what we decided to allocate, like 15% of my time or something, includes everybody. And then the rest goes right into the mission. So thank you for that. We have a number of different kinds of volunteers. There's a volunteer model where the person was an attorney their whole life, and now they're volunteering. They don't want to do legal work. Some people do, but they want to come out and build a home. And so they're rookies when it comes to pounding nails and operating equipment. But we also have those that did it some aspect of it their whole life, and they come out and help us as well. So we have both ends of the spectrum with that. And then you throw in what's really growing right now is groups. We have sponsors, corporations, organizations that sponsor a day for their employees to come out and do community service. And even within that group, you're going to have some people that might have helped remodel their house or build a house or a garage, or someone who answers the phone all day long. And they all want to have a great experience building. And that's part of what I will say, are experts at. We understand that, and we're patient. We want to make sure everybody that comes out understands the value of what they're doing for us and get something in return for it, which is understanding and knowing that they've done some real good. So that's that our site supervisors, yeah, they know building, but they also are totally responsible for the experience that people have when they're on our sites. And we spend a lot of time making sure they get that part of it. Whereas if you bring in a contractor, they're really good at the building part, but some of them, they would not succeed in our environment for the right reasons. I'm not bad mouthing it, but thanks again for donating it. It was the number one category of product at the Restore when I started. Since then, furniture has moved into the top 3 along with appliances. So
Yeah, they took out our wooden floor in our dining room too, and they took that and it was all so slick how they attacked that.
we could not keep that stuff in the store. I mean, it's unbelievable. If you know what he's talking about, the slatted wood, our guys who go in, take it out. What they didn't like to do is take the nails out of it. And so we couldn't really put it on the sales floor all the time, but we could put it in our warehouse, and people drive over, look at it and come back and pay for it and go pick it up. It was great. It's harder to do that these days with, there's fewer projects like that out there, and a lot of laminate products people are buying, and yeah, it's just different.
Other comments or questions? None? All right.
There's nobody
This is
online.
fantastic.
Anybody there want to?
One more question
Sure.
for you. So you did mention that Dane County is going to, and the city of Madison has already set aside
Mhm.
funding. And it sounded like it was with Madison, $5,000 per project.
They
So
put
does,
those limits on it, but yes.
does that basically reserve your time then for somebody within the city of Madison that would
The funds,
qualify?
yes, the funds we receive for CDBG, from CDBG, community development block grants, those are all administered through HUD, but the county and the city of Madison are, I can't remember what the correct term is for them, but they are authorized distributors of the HUD money. Yeah, if they give us money, it has to be spent in Madison, whereas the county money can't be spent in Madison. It has to be spent outside of Madison. So, you folks probably know more about the way the government operates. Actually, it's not true. I've been learning a lot about it in 5 years. It's frustrating, but it's just the way it works. And the $5,000 from either entity is their max they put on the project. It's not a 50-50 match. We can do projects up to any amount that the homeowner can afford based on our formula for the payback. So, but it reduces it by $5,000. And we get a lot of money from the county and the city for down payment assistance that goes directly to the homeowner. But we administer that through the county, or not administer, we apply for and are granted that on behalf of the future homeowners. And that's significant. If you think of a first mortgage, I'll just use round numbers again. The first mortgage is, let's say, $200,000. 5-6 years ago, we were putting about 15,000 down from the CDBG funds from the county, and then somewhere around 20-some thousand from the city. And that's not covering it enough anymore. The gap between what they can afford to pay and what we need is grown. So both of those entities have increased the amount that we can use of the grants for each individual homeowner. And right now, the county, our last go round was around 45,000. So the homeowners, I forgot to mention that. If you take 28% of their income, including all the costs, and run it out over 30 years, if that doesn't cover the first mortgage, we eat the rest. So anytime we can increase the down payment assistance, it helps us build the next home, is where we're coming from that standpoint, not to mention it makes it more affordable. One other point, just make sure it's understood. There are some properties that we purchase, most recently through the city of Madison, that have what are called LURAs for affordability. That goes with the land. We do not automatically put any requirements that homes remain affordable over time. In fact, a person could walk out of the closing on their home with Habitat and sell their house on their way home. They own it just like you and I own our own homes. It's not a buyback situation. We do have the right to purchase it back, but think about that again just for a second. No matter how long someone's lived in their home, it's going to be worth more than it was when we sold it to them, first off. And second, no matter how little needs to be done, whatever needs to be done is going to cost us out of our pocket to bring it up to whatever level it needs to be. It automatically becomes unaffordable, even though it was when it started. And what part of our model allows families to build equity, and we don't want to be in a situation where they're not allowed to do that. So I don't see us changing. And you've probably had presentations from, like the Madison Community Land Bank, where they own the land and all you're paying for is the house. Not quite as much equity built in that. Good model in some situations, but it's not quite the same as ours. And just, I'll end with this. It sounds like we're getting to the point where the questions are dwindling, but we support all housing, the whole continuum, rental through luxury homes. And it's easy. I'm sure Tim can share all the data with you, but there's some things that stood out from the county study that was done, I thought, very well. It was arduous at times, and I don't know how you have 70 people in a room making decisions, but somehow they got us down the right path. But, if there's not enough luxury homes, the people that have that kind of income buy the homes that aren't as luxurious, if I can use that. And it just starts going downhill. And the ultimate end of that is that the affordable homes become less affordable, or there's more scarcity of affordable homes. So we understand that. So we support the continuum, and all of our homeowners come to us from the rental world. So for us to say we don't support rentals would be foolish, because we do. So we're all in this together. No one has the solution. We all just seem to know that we're not building enough today to keep up. And because of that, we're falling further and further behind. So what is the answer? And I'm sure you folks are struggling with, do we build multifamily, apartment type housing, or do we build home ownership, or what? And the answer unfortunately isn't known. There isn't a solution that fits everywhere, but you have to build it all. That's what you have to figure out how to do. At least that's my opinion. So thank you all very much. I really appreciate talking to you. If you have any other questions, Tim, you can just email me, try to answer them. If you want me to come back and talk more about anything we do, I'm clearly like to talk, so I'll be happy to come back. And thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for coming and spending time with us and sharing about the program. It's very exciting to hear about this.
Thanks.
So, and we hope to see you again, perhaps over this program or another program. All right, fantastic. That would be great. That would be great. I can swing a hammer and work a table saw. So my dad was a shop teacher, so and a drill press. Anyhow, we are now on to adjournment. All right.
Just one, before you say that,
Okay.
the next scheduled meeting is November 8th. We're planning on taking up the meeting or the agenda item that was removed from this evening at that meeting. So more to come, but that's the next scheduled meeting is November 8th.
All right. Do we have a motion?
I'll second.
All right. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you all for coming tonight.